It was only more, but I'm.
It was just because it was changed.
Yes. But it's continuing.
Okay. All right. Nope.
Want to meet you? Right on. All right. Sounds like you're good to go. All right, we'll call the meeting to order at 6:01 PM. It is September 4th, 2025. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation. Are there any accommodations?
I'd like to make a commendation to all the administrators and staff members who worked to get school open last week. Think very clear to me that the work of opening schools starts the day that school ends in June. And there are a lot of people that go into having those classrooms ready, teachers there to greet our students on the first day. So good work to everyone to that.
All right, any others? Okay, we'll move on to, excuse me, public comment. Just before we begin, I'd like to remind that our policy allows individuals up to 3 minutes to present their materials and that the segment should not exceed 15 minutes overall. Public comment is not a discussion, debate, or dialogue between individuals and the school committee. It is an individual's opportunity to express an opinion on issues within the school committee's authority. For example, budget, superintendent performance, and school policy. I will give individuals a 15-second prompt to let them know their time is expiring. Yeah, Sarah?
Sarah Fox, 46 Steve Street. I'm speaking on two topics. The first one being the surveys that you included last week. Last week you included a blanket approval in the handbooks, despite the recent Supreme Court case that states clearly that parents are given the right to opt in rather than opt out. This is concerning because this week, once school opened, at least 3 of the schools have sent home requirements for students to sign, for the parents to sign the handbook. It's graded as an assignment. And so essentially your child will be penalized in their grades if the parent does not agree. That is a forced mandate. It is a direct violation of the clear decision from the Supreme Court. And I'm very troubled that one of the first actions the school committee took was to violate clear law. So that's the first thing. Second thing is I noticed as of about 4:20 today, the finance update off the meeting. This is
the Becko bus is here. Becko bus is here.
The issue with the finance piece is this year we know we need an override if we're going to keep all of our staff whole. This has not been a mystery. It was talked about clearly during bargaining. We're looking down the barrel of a $3 million deficit right now, which accounts for about 60 jobs. That's not at the para level, that's at the full-time teacher level. So you guys need to be fully transparent and upfront about your finances every meeting talking about this. You have a finance subcommittee where you have only appointed 1 member, so they cannot actually meet. It seems to the public that you're gaslighting as far as finances go in a year where transparency is needed more than anything if you want public support. Our kids will pay the price for this if you don't start being transparent with this. So I don't know why it was pulled less than 2 hours prior, but it certainly isn't for good governance. So I'd like you to use your agenda items, which you have, to explain why this is happening with the finance and also how you plan to combat the fact that you took away rights that were given. These are surveys I'm almost guaranteed I would have agreed to. I have no problem. This is information that helps our kids. But the right way to do it is not by circumventing the law. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. If anyone online would like to raise their hand, they'd like to make a public comment. Okay, not seeing any hands raised, not seeing any more interest in the room. We will move on to our student representative. So Will, welcome to your first meeting.
All right, thank you all so much for having me. Very excited to be here. I'll get right into it. It's been a good start to the school year. New students are adjusting well to MHS, and 5 days in, classes have begun to ramp up in workload. There are many new teachers this year. My band teacher, for example, as well as my sister's English and Spanish teachers. But I'm loving band, and I've heard great things about the other classes and the other teachers, so I'm sure it's been a smooth start to the year regardless. The new bell schedule has brought some confusion to students and staff alike. Classes don't start in the hour, and for some, after-school activities are harder to get to on time. But we are adjusting, and I'm sure that soon things will feel routine. Sports have begun, and games are starting up for all teams. Yesterday, the cross-country, volleyball, field hockey, and soccer teams played their first games, while golf started about a week ago. Tomorrow's the first home football game, and I can tell you that the MHS students are very excited to cheer on Marblehead. That's all I have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Will. Okay, the next item is a superintendent update.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say thank you to Will for his first update. I think it was really well done. Thanks, Will. Appreciate it. So good evening. It's definitely been a busy start to the school year. However, I've firsthand seen all the schools, at all of our schools, the students and staff engaged in teaching and learning and excited about being back in school, which is just awesome. It's just great to see. The beginning of the school year is sometimes tricky with staffing and vacancies. So just to update the committee, excuse me, as to where we stand with our teachers. There have been 22 teachers hired to start the school year, 6 of which were already employed with us in some capacity. So our IAs, TSs, et cetera, that applied and were moved into full-time teaching positions, which I love to see that that growth and that willingness to remain as part of Marblehead community. I think that's awesome to see. As a side note, when I did my welcome back, I always welcome back to all the staff. I've done like, hey, if you've worked here for 5 years, can you stand up? If you've worked here for 10 years, can you stand up? And it's a good way to kind of see the longevity. And I was been really impressed the 2 years I've been here doing that, seeing how many staff have been here for many years. And one staff member that, I got to 30 years and she stood up and, it was really great. I think she's been 34. I think that's what she hollered out. I think it's 34 years. So anyway, I just share that. I think that's awesome. We do still have a few long-term subs covering leaves of absences. We have a decent amount of leaves of absences that started the school year, whether it's parental leave or other leaves. So we do have some long-term subs in there, but those folks are all planning on coming back at the end of their respective leaves. And at present, we have 3 special education teacher vacancies. And we've hired a French teacher to replace. We had hired a French teacher who then I think that just the day before school changed their mind. So we had a slight vacancy at the French teacher, but I've hired a French teacher. She should be on next week, I believe. So overall, we're in really good shape. We're in much better shape than we were last year at this time. We still had many openings last year. There's still some openings in IAs, but some of that's IEP related. Some of it's just shifting of kids from different schools. So like I said, we're in really good shape. We have 3 special ed teacher vacancies being sought to be filled. Then just moving on, sometimes when tragedy strikes, it gives us pause and causes us to reflect on our practice supports and resources that we have in place. And I thought it prudent to share some of the ways we address situations through counseling and systems of support. All of our schools have appropriately staffed credentialed counselors that are available to address situations as they arise and work to ensure students have trusted adults with whom they can connect when needed. A local organization, Marblehead Counseling Center, provides support and resources to our schools and has been instrumental in their outreach, especially during the recent tragedy. And I want to specifically thank Terry McDonough for the recent communication collaboration. They have also begun to revitalize Marblehead Care's mental health task force. I think it was under a different name, but I think that's a new name. And they're collaborating with the schools, community. So Lisa Marie's actually going to jump on that committee for us as a school representative. So I'm really excited about that work. And then we also we met and we're going to start getting ready to administer the MGH substance use and risk related factors, the SURF survey to our high school students. That's the survey that we report back out in the spring. And the reason is that like someone had asked, like, we do it in October, why do we not report to the spring? It's MGH is the primary person who factors all the data together and gives us the results, and then we have to kind of then add in the results of the questions that we add to the survey. So we don't get that back to like February-ish. So that's why there's a lag time. And that's definitely one of the surveys that falls under the eight areas that we have to ensure that folks have the ability to opt out of. So we will send out notification, we'll send out a link to the survey, we'll send out how they can opt out of the survey. So that's all taken care of in alignment with that policy. Let's see, we're also meeting to discuss having speakers come in to meet with our students annually as a way to address, substance abuse in an ongoing and planful manner. This is one of the things I think is really important, not to just talk about this after, after tragedy of sorts. We need to kind of get into it, the habit of having speakers come in that are pertinent, that the students can relate to, so they can just hear the message and really start to ingrain some of the things that we need to ingrain, so for safe behaviors. And then at the last school committee, there was a discussion regarding having community leaders form a group to address substance abuse, and so hopefully that will transpire and add another layer into the mix. So these are just some of the ways the Marblehead School supports our educational community through, counseling and supports like that. There's a plethora of other things, but those are the main ones that have kind of surfaced recently. Our anti-discrimination committee is meeting next week. I know there was a conversation at the last committee about where we were at, so I just want to share. We will begin planning for the school year. There are a plethora of resources, webinars, events, and speakers that have been shared that we will discuss in the committee to see what makes sense to maybe bring on board, what makes sense for speakers to come in, when, how, at what levels, students, staff, parents, that kind of thing. There's a lot that goes into that. So, when you have to make sure any kind of speakers are people we have coming to the schools that are vetted and making sure that they're, it's meaningful to what we're looking to do. So those will be some of the initial conversations with the anti-discrimination committee. And then I'll certainly, like I said, I will update the committee after every time we meet and let you know where we are, what the plan for it is moving forward. So I'm excited about that being on the 11th on that. I will be doing outreach next week to rejuvenate the wellness committee. That was also brought up. So I started that. I met with our head nurse, Megan Calpin. I met with her today. We had email back and forth a little bit, but I met with her today, start having the discussions. And I started hearing from some folks around from the community that may have interest as being part of that committee. And just so folks are aware, the previous iteration of the committee consisted of the head nurse, food service director, director of finance and operations, a principal, a health teacher, school committee member, and then 3 or 4 parents or community members. So, I envision that it'll be a similar makeup, I think, and likely meeting quarterly. The first order of business for that committee is to review the wellness policy. It's supposed to be done every 3 years. And I believe we're on the 3rd year. So I don't know if that's one of the policies the subcommittee looked at yet, but that's something we'll definitely be on the beginning part of that committee when I get that together, which will hopefully be in the next couple of weeks. A few more things. Indulge me. Our schools have been doing their mandated fire drills, and we're also doing our ALICE drills. The principals have been directed to do full ALICE drill evacuations, ALICE evacuation drills at the beginning of the year and in the spring, with at least one lockdown drill in the middle. It's not more, but at least one. I that in place last year. Came to my attention and we weren't doing like full evacuation to like the rally points. And I think it's really important that students and staff and first responders, everyone knows what the process is. That's not something obviously we share with parents because, if people have ill intent, we try not to, let the community at large know like exactly where we're going, although it's a small community, so it's probably pretty evident. But at any rate, having those at the beginning of the school year, end of the school year, we get some really good feedback from the spring ones, saying, wow, we haven't done this in a long time, if at all. Like a lot of times we do an evacuation, say, oh, if we were really evacuating, you would go here and just kind of walk kids through it. But my thought is there's new staff, new students in every single building every single year, and we need to do that as close to the beginning of the school year as possible. In addition to that, we've done our fire drills, but then we also had fire drill the other day here, a fire alarm. It wasn't a drill here at the high school, so we got an extra practice in, and it went really well by all accounts. So I appreciate Ms. Ferrera's help there. She happened to be here when that happened, and the staff. I think everyone did a really nice job. And then we also had it was smell of gas at Village School, so we had to have an evacuation there. And again, by all accounts, that went really smoothly, really well. Staff did a really nice job. Students did a nice job. There was a period of time we had to wait for the all clear, which is good, and we were able to get back in the building. So I just share all that because it's important when we talk about, there's a lot of discussion about safety. There's a lot of discussion about how we operationalize, things like that. And I feel really comfortable. Those things are in place and going well. So anyway, I will end on a more positive note than than that kind of conversation, and share that the Glover Playground upgrade is complete. Students seem pretty excited about the new equipment, and we're pleased that the rubberized area is updated and safe. I have to say, when we talked about putting a new structure, I was like, yeah, great, a new structure. But then when I really looked at it, because I've been out there with the kids running around, and I noticed it. When the kids aren't there, the rubberized part of the playground was just a disaster. So I'm glad that's all done. We're continuing to explore ways to make that playground even safer. If anyone hasn't been there, I liken it to like a lion cage at the zoo. Like you look in, there's like rocks and there's hills, and it's really pretty looking, but not hugely conducive to some of the smaller kids. So we're gonna look at different ways to continue to look at safety. There's some washout that happens when it rains, and we need to look at how to mitigate that. There's giant boulders there that some aesthetically pleasing, but we're gonna look at potentially moving those around. So just for safety issues. So I just want to share that. So I will celebrate those updates and profusely thank the Glover PTO for the generous donation and input into making this a great place for students to play and explore. Thank you. That's my update for this evening.
All right, thank you, Superintendent. Sure. The next item is consent action and agenda items. And, excuse me, under the consent agenda, I'm looking for a motion to approve draft meeting minutes from the August 21st, 2025 school committee meeting and the identified schedules of bills totaling $990,473.31.
I'll make the motion, but can you restate the number?
Yes, $990,473.31.
No motion. Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, Jen,
In favor?
Henry,
In favor?
In favor.
Al, in favor, motion passes 4-0. Our next item is the high school roof project members. We'll turn this over to you, Henry.
Sure. Al, did we approve the meeting minutes in that consent?
We
agenda?
did.
Okay.
August
Thank you.
21st meeting minutes.
Just
Um,
Aaron?
I thought I had said both in the motion.
Thanks, Al. First of all, thank you for bearing with me. I'm dealing with a sore throat, and that's why I'm not there. And so please let me know if you're having trouble hearing me. I may be talking quietly, so feel free to interrupt. So first of all, I'd really love to thank all of the community members who reached out. We had 8 community members reach out and offered to help us and volunteer their time to join this committee to help move the project along. So I'd really like to thank Sam Altruder, Pete Kessel, Mark Liebman, Karima Maloney, Devin McGlynn, Brian Serafin, Michael Smith, and Ralph Wallace for submitting their names to join this committee. I do have some recommendations among those names for the people who I'd like to see join this committee. But I don't know if anybody else here wants to have any discussion before I make my recommendations. Please speak up.
Well, I don't understand this whole process. I didn't discuss this. So that's why I was confused in terms of how this was gonna work, because normally, if you're gonna have recommendations, you'd have a subcommittee that would have more than one person who would be making recommendations. Did you, so did you interview every person?
I reviewed their resumes.
Okay, well, we can do that too. And we did. I don't understand this process. Not anything I've ever seen before. And it doesn't seem like it was necessarily robust enough to really be deciding. There's a lot of good quality people here. We didn't talk about how many people we want on this committee. Or the process for it, so.
Which I think we're going to discuss now, Jen, is around how do we feel about the resumes? How do we feel about the amount of people that should be on the committee?
Yeah, and I can talk about that because I think the number of people on this committee. So John made his recommendations and he suggested Mike, Todd Bloodgood, Eileen Long from left field, and Gene Raymond from RDA, and I think those are great recommendations. And then
Now, I
the
just want
community.
to comment about that. Those folks should not be they won't be voting members on the committee, or they shouldn't be. They're consultants to us. They would normally be.
I recommended them because they need to be part of the discussion. So however they manage the part of being a part of that committee, well, I mean, Mike and Todd work for us, but Gene and Nina, I think it needs sense to have them on it because they need to be part of the discussion rather
Yeah.
than like have the conversation and find them. That was my reason behind it.
And votes and decisions are going to be made by the school committee, not by this. So,
But I would expect an advisory committee would vote to make a recommendation to us. Right, so it's a subcommittee, they will vote.
and we'll have the community members be voting members as well as myself.
Okay, I just didn't seem to me that you would have a consultant with paying be a voting member.
And it sounds like Henry said that they will not be voting members.
Well. I mean, that's what we need to decide. That's what this whole thing is about. So, I don't know. It just doesn't, this isn't.
So do you have an objection to the community members being voting members?
Community members would have to be voting members. Like, that's the whole point of this.
I agree. So let's do it. Yeah.
They're advisory to us. So at some point, they're going to be making some kind of recommendation to us or multiple recommendations to us for what we need to vote on. So that committee would need to vote. I would typically how that works.
I believe that's what we're proposing.
Have a paid consultant as a voting member on a committee.
They're more advisory members of the committee because they're going to be the people who are doing the work.
Okay.
I think, again, I recommend them because we talked a lot about having someone that knows, things about roofs and construction and everything. So that was just my recommendation to say it makes sense to me. I mean, they could be listed as advisory. I mean, I would think that when the committee, my humble opinion, when the committee gets together to talk about stuff, they're the folks that, hey, this is what they present as a viable. This may not be about this. You should consider that. That's how I was thinking in my head. But again, I don't know what you guys were thinking about for the so I was just asking. So however it makes sense. I mean, if they know what they're talking about, so it's up.
So just so I have the math right, so Henry, there's, as stated right now, people who have expressed interest in the community, there's 8 people.
8 people, correct. And I have, again, I have recommendations, but for people who I would suggest join. So
Sort of would include that person, I would think. One person lives in Florida. I don't know how technical it is in subcommittee, whether you need to be a registered voter or not, but maybe not, but I think to be here, you have somebody who lives in the town.
So I agree with that, Jen. I did want to include his name because he did reach out and offer. He says he's in town 8 times a year. He's not, although his resume is strong, he's not one of the names that I'm going to be recommending, that I would personally recommend for this committee. So I think we're in agreement on that.
And did we have a number that we were interested in for this committee? That probably would have been a good place to start.
I do.
It is a recommendation.
Okay.
If you'd like me to continue, just let me know. If you have any more comments on the applicants, just go ahead. I was going to suggest 4 community members And that's a number that's based on spreading around the expertise that we've been offered from these community members. And I think with four people, we have a very broad range of expertise and capabilities that I think is really going to help move this project along.
But you didn't speak to everybody.
I reviewed their resumes and most of them sort of gave me, well, yeah, I reviewed their resumes, which are on the drive, as you know.
Yeah, so the only thing I would suggest is depending on who else was on that committee, again, I don't think it should be contracted, but whether it's a voting member from the like or not, you should not have an even number of people on a committee.
Will it be 4 community members and
All right, so five, all right, so
Five.
then it wouldn't be necessarily Mike or Todd, or it could be.
So there are four members, there's two members from the administration, two left field and RDA makes four community members and myself. So that would be,
Voting members, I do not think the contractors should be voting members.
that's correct. That's what we agreed on. Yeah.
Financial.
Yeah, yeah, so if you take those two out. You're saying
It's still an
four-
odd number.
2 administrators and a school committee member.
Mhm.
So, yeah, so it's odd, okay.
Yes.
They wouldn't want possible typo, so.
Do you provide the 4 names?
Yes. So the four names that I'm going to recommend are Sam Altruder, who has a lot of experience with commercial property management, project management. Another reason why I'm recommending him is because he was one of the people who spoke at the town meeting regarding the roof project. So I think he's been very invested in this for a long time. I think he's very interested in joining, and I think he'll have a good perspective as someone who has been paying attention to this for a long time. The second name is Mark Liebman. So Mark Liebman has experience with project management, HVAC, roofing, commercial property management. He's a member of he's a member of the planning board, Marblehead Planning Board, and an alternate on the zoning board. And he has extensive experience in his resume. The third name is Brian Seraphin, who owns a commercial HVAC company in Boston. So I think having his specific expertise in the HVAC area, that's sort of an area where a lot of the people who submitted their names don't have as much experience. And he's got a lot of contacts and I think he'll be able to provide really good feedback on that, knowing that that's a huge part of the project. And then the last name I would recommend is Ralph Wallace, who has over 45 years experience in planning, design, finance, and construction. He was on the Brown School Committee. He's worked with MSBA. And so I think he's a really strong candidate to help us move this through. The other candidates were all very qualified, but I think some of their experience sort of overlapped with some of the names that I did recommend.
The only thing I would suggest is Karima Maloney also has experience, also having a woman on the committee is not a bad thing. So we could always have, Mike be the voting member and we could have 5 community members. Right, 6. 7.
You're right. She has fantastic experience. I would welcome her to the committee.
So I'll make a motion for those 5 community members, added to the NHS roof advisory committee.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? Okay, we'll vote. Jen,
In favor?
Henry,
In favor.
Keith,
In favor.
Al, in favor, the motion passes 4-0.
So it's those 5 community members and Mike as the voting members.
And myself. So
And then
And that's all, right? Okay.
yes.
And then whoever else you have is advisors.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Excited. Thank you.
So, wanted us to talk about, instant recap email, of which you put a sample in our Dropbox.
I did. If you take a look, uh, if and I forget what it's called, but it is in there. It is a draft of an email that I would like to start sending out either the Friday after or the Monday after, but essentially very quickly as soon as we can after we have a full school committee meeting. And it's really meant to be to specifically summarize the meeting. The draft that I included in the materials is a little more has a little more introductory text because of the situation in town and the opportunities to join the school committee and to join the MHS roof committee. But typically it's not going to be a general newsletter informative update. It's much more focused on providing a link to the meeting and a high level overview. It's not meant to be the minutes, but it's more of a summary, just so that people can quickly get some summarized information about what we just met about and have links to learn more. So I'm asking for approval to start sending those out.
Well, so, okay, my experience in the past is that school committees haven't typically sent emails out. I don't know.
I haven't.
Yeah, I haven't really ever seen that. And we've always been encouraged not to do that. So I guess, I mean, it's fine with me, as long as John supports it.
I was waiting to hear the discussion. I didn't really understand.
So I think oh, go ahead, Jen.
The role of the communication subcommittee, because I think we don't have two people on that committee.
We have it's Alan.
So is that, like, to me, that would be something that would come out of, and maybe it did, as a recommendation, and so to understand where we are with the newsletter.
Yeah, I would think, and we wanted to have to see very well the committee was too, Jan, and that's why we're discussing it tonight.
Well, it's every vote, so.
Um,
Yeah.
So I think that this should be placed in the newsletter, to be quite honest, and whether we email it, put it on our website. I think that is, we're open to the will of the committee around that, but I think it's a great way, it's, Henry's using some technology that really creates, I think, a very good summary of our meetings. It's very quick. We can add to it. If there's something we feel is more proactive that we want to put on there, we can do that. So I look at this as a vehicle to place the newsletter.
So then if we're not doing subcommittee updates, we do those be. That was basically what the newsletter was.
So the subcommittee updates would be provided because they are part of our meetings now. So that would be in the summary. And I could make a specific section to call that out. I think that makes a lot of sense because they are a little separate. So if that's an addition you'd like to see, I will build it into the template.
I think that we can take this as sort of a launching place for this idea, particularly given that Brian seems to have been the driving force behind the newsletter. And so instead of letting that effort languish, I think this is a way to try, to keep that kind of communication happening, and, whether it goes by email or, is communicated in some other way. I do think it's a way to get immediate information into people's hands about what the school committee does instead of, a monthly update that isn't always going to be.
That was confusing. And that wasn't evident. So.
Yeah, I think also, excuse me just for a second, superintendent, it was. We were having a hard time getting content. So I think it was a good attempt. I think what was put out made some sense, but it was very labor intensive. So what I like about this, it's much quicker. It's there's still human involvement. And it's not big labor drain on a school committee and subcommittee members.
Well, it should come from the chair. That's.
Yes.
So if I may, I just I think the first question was whether I would. My opinion was whether it'd be an email. I would suggest just posting it like we would the newsletter instead. Sending it out as an email, just. This a lot of, there's a lot of issues in the around. So my suggestion would be if committee's gonna vote to do this, I would just post like, so that way. We just have to operationalize it from your end, so after the meeting's done, so it's generated, the student goes to you. So you add, looks good, or we need to add a couple things, when it goes to, probably Lisa Manning, and then she can kind of kick it out from there. So that way, it's kind of gone through the steps. And so that way it's not, it's similar.
Committees don't normally send blast emails.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So I think send it to Lisa Manning, say this is all set, can you have it posted, and she will, Stephen will post it. Then that'd be good. And I think similarly, just one staying in the pops in my head, when we do like, when there's updated votes on stuff, we want to do the same thing, we're saying to Lisa Manning, hey, this was voted on last night, you update this on the website. I think there was a few of those that get missed, fairly recently, last year or whatever, just because things happen. I think people thought other people we're supposed to follow me, he was not that. Anyway, I just think that's just that communication should.
So John, I had a little trouble hearing you there, but I think I got the gist of your message, and yes, I love your recommendations, and I agree.
Okay, so I look for a motion to support what's been said here.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so the motion was that we will use this as a communication vehicle. It will be posted to a website, not use email as a distribution mechanism,
And it goes quite a month or after.
and it will go after next year. Okay, that's so moved.
Henry moved.
I'm sorry,
Yep, and I second.
Henry moved it. A second. Okay, any further discussion? Okay, we'll vote. Jen,
Favor?
Henry,
In favor?
Dave,
In favor.
in favor. The motion passes 4-0. Okay, our next agenda item was around our student submission to educational surveys and research policy. Is that Superintendent?
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was the subcommittee was doing that.
Well, I want to comment about this. I have some issues about this, for a number of reasons, because I've had a chance to go through it in more detail. And I couldn't communicate that because I would be looking at violation. So, because first of all, we didn't vote this in our subcommittee. First of all, which we normally do that. But secondly, I do think there's a inherent contradiction in this policy versus our handbook. That the policy itself and then the handbook. But even if we just look at the policy, this is where I think we can use some help out with either MASC or our council. Because the policy ILD says without prior written consent of the student's parent or guardian, no student shall be required as a part of any program wholly or partially funded to submit to any survey and subscribe to surveys. And then at the bottom it says the district will notify parents and guardians annually at the beginning of the school year, which arguably I guess we do in the handbook. And during the year, when surveys are scheduled or anticipated, parents shall have the opportunity to opt their child out. So the policy is calling for prior written consent, which we're doing in the form of in the handbook, blank consent, and then saying the ability to opt out. So it seems that seems contradictory to me in some ways. And secondly, functionally, it's in the handbook and parents are required to sign the handbook and students are being held to that, at least in high school. That require that their parents sign the handbook. So then unless there's an opt out in the handbook.
Okay, it was my understanding that you guys talked about this in the subcommittee and we're gonna bring it forward again, but we're all set with this, the MASC one, so. Aside, the handbook basically says that. You're agreeing to what's in the handbook, you're agreeing to being to surveys, et cetera, with the exception of these eight areas. you have the ability to opt out. And then for these 8 areas that are listed in this policy and in the handbook, provide notice to parents. We say, here's how you opt out. Here's your opportunity to look at the survey before you decide. And quite frankly, if the students getting ready to do the survey and they say they don't want to do it, we don't force them to do it, right? So, but it's those 8 areas. That's what's in the ILD from MASC. That's what's in the handbook. I feel it does jive. When I asked the lawyer said, as I understand it, by signing off on the handbook, parents are not giving blanket consent for the student participating in the district survey. They are consenting to the students participating in surveys or activities that do not concern the 8 points of the PPR. The district will provide notification and allow opt-outs in accordance with the PPR whenever survey or activity concerns those 8 points. So it just said, the district just needs to be diligent in ensuring the district's providing timely notification. So after the last meeting, I did go and spoke to the lawyer and I showed the whole thing. And I said, it's my understanding they're gonna put forward the MASC version of the policy. Like, that was confusion before. I thought we were going with the other version. And he felt that it dovetailed fine, there wasn't an issue with it, so. For your identification, so.
Okay, I'm gonna pull up. So at the last meeting, we had. Unless, would they already be on this, 2 people are already on the. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
Oh, the new ones are? Because what you're saying, what you just said, John, is that the handbook consent is not for these surveys. So it must be somehow stated in there.
So it's consenting to everything, but these 8, they have an option. We have to provide notification and give them an opportunity to opt out of it and an ability to look at the surveys to help decide whether they opt out of it. So in essence, yes. And it's simple from by our attorney to get the rule.
Well, it just doesn't like, oh, all right, I'm voting no.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable with it. I just feel like there's this inherent discrepancy. I said it last time and I'm saying again. The policy feels like there's a discrepancy and this feels like it's a discrepancy in how we're applying it. And this is quite pertinent to what's going on now.
I mean, I understand the point you're making. The policy, is the MASC policy.
Well, doesn't mean they're.
And it tracks the statute that it is implementing, which requires both written consent and an opportunity to opt out. And if you read some of the Department of Ed materials around the statute, I think that the idea really is to enable districts to get consent up front and then provide these opt-out opportunities when surveys involving those 8 subjects come up. So I can understand why you see a contradiction there,
Yeah.
but it also is what the statute.
But I also see the cases that are going on are about opting in versus opting out. So I'm just going with it.
But those cases are about curriculum.
Yeah.
Moving for motion or not?
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Okay. Is there any further discussion on the motion? If not, we'll vote. Janet,
No.
Henry,
In favor.
Kate,
In favor.
Al, in favor. The motion passes 3-1. Okay, the next item is an update on academic integrity. Julie?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm Julia Ferreira, Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. I hope this is first of many presentations about the work we're doing in our public schools. So I have the privilege of working with an incredible artificial intelligence steering committee. So I'm going to share out the work that we've done and give you a little insight into how we launched the school year with our staff. So Frank has some slides for us. We're going to put up. So I'm going to walk you through kind of some gratitude because there's a lot of people contributing to this. A little bit of a background about the work we've done. Nope, not that one, Frank, sorry. Thankfully, we got that one through and the materials are here, so that's great news. I'm gonna share it one more time for you.
It says AI, that's a two, that's correct.
It's right at the top of your inbox, I think now, so. You want to. I would be happy to be a panelist. I can just do it very quickly as well.
Then,
Thanks, Frank. So I'm going to start on the next slide with just a lot of thank yous. The AI steering committee is comprised of administrators and educators. And we spent a lot of time together this past year. And I want to really mention the members who created and contributed to the presentation that I'm sharing with you today. That's Anthony Costello. He's a high school social studies teacher. Michael Fu is a high school math teacher. Jay Gudadaro is a middle school Spanish teacher. Kathy Koch is our assistant principal at the middle school. Liz Pruitt is our librarian and now instructional coach at Village School. David Rainey, who is a history and social studies AP teacher at Marblehead High School, and Susan Schafford, who's the librarian at the school. We worked throughout the summer, last year and into the summer on this presentation. So really excited to give them a lot of credit for the work. And the next slide is kind of a background. So we started the AI steering committee in the fall of 2024. We came together to develop a vision and define our goals and action steps for responsible integration of AI within Marblehead Public Schools. Together collectively, some of the objectives that we worked through as a team, as a committee, were to form a community of learners and determine AI steering committee goals. So this is kind of like from the first meeting, kind of walking it through, establishing our goals and action steps for future meetings. Then our conversation really turned to how can we take the work that we're doing to support both students and staff? So through conversations at the committee, it really became clear that this is kind of a two-pronged approach of helping our students and families, right, and our staff. So we spent some time reviewing those academic integrity expectations in the handbooks. Then we did our due diligence to collect and analyze data from staff and students, specifically at the middle and high school. That's where we found a lot of the usage and a lot of the exploration was at the middle and high school. So we spent some time, and our teammates, Tony and Dave and Katrina Donovan at the middle school spent a lot of time collecting that data for us. So in our last few meetings as a team in the 24-25 school year, we reviewed the data they collected at the middle school and high school. I send an annual survey to all staff, so I included some AI questions on that, and we looked at that survey data. And then we began our planning for the all staff professional development session, which we launched on August 25th. So it was the support of the superintendent. It's been really great to work with this committee. And then it was really nice on the 25th, the first day of after the superintendent's convocation and welcome, that we had educators, leading educators in a professional development session. So I was really proud of that.
Yeah, it was really cool. I witnessed, I was trying to, watch the audience, watch the presenters, and all the folks that Julia's listed presented in front of everybody. It was really cool. I think it was really well received. A lot of information that Jules was going to share with me, but yeah, I thought it was great.
I was up on the stage route, so I would have put a picture in so everybody could see. It was really great. So on the next slide, we have really a lot of our conversation as a committee was about culture and the culture of learning in Marblehead Public Schools, right? So, so just kind of walk you through in just a few short years, AI, and when I'm talking about AI, I'm referencing artificial intelligence in this situation. It's really transformed a lot of classrooms. It's transformed the way students are engaging with technology. We do see that also in the same last few years, colleges have become very selective. We have a very high percentage of our graduates attending college. So we know that there's, these kind of implications of performance that will, help determine next steps after Marblehead High School. A lot of students taking a lot of AP classes and really challenging themselves. So but at the same time, the ease and use of technology to support that. So in the end, we really do believe there's a lot of challenges and there's a lot of opportunities with AI. But what we really want to focus on is this culture of learning. So our vision is really to revitalize a culture of students having intrinsic value of education, so that they are producing their work. They might be generating ideas, but really at the end of the day, they have this real value of education and producing their own work. That slide and these other slides, these literally are what we shared with the staff as well. I've tailored just a little bit for our presentation tonight, but this is really what we're sharing with the staff as well. So how can we support this vision and this culture? We really want to celebrate when our students are producing that effort and original thought as true measures of success. Not this kind of instilling fear, but really emphasizing that we trust them to create their own work, and we're proud when they get the opportunity to share that original work and have success with that. How thinking about AI as a tool, how they can use it to help them study, generate ideas, not replacing their own work, but how we can teach them responsible use of it. Ultimately with the goal of students taking pride in authentic learning, right? Because it's really meaningful and they know that they're going to get that value of that, not just because someone's watching and monitoring all the time. So we talked a lot, again, another slide on culture, student-led orientation. So how can students support students with this? How can teachers support teachers with this? And how can we as a community, so parents, teachers, administration, align around a common message, and really that shared culture is going to become that norm and not the exception. We support one another as we're navigating using it responsibly, but we do feel that we want students' work if that's what the expectation is from that teacher. A part of this I talked about when we were looking at the handbooks. Our elementary schools did not have academic integrity expectations, and we do feel like with the use of technology and how the world is evolving so quickly over the last few years, we thought that it would be really important to update, make recommendations to update our academic integrity expectations, which the school committee approved via the handbooks. So we did the updates, and we also included it with your approval in the elementary handbook. So that was a first for us. So we do not have an AI policy. We do not have AI rules, but plagiarism has been around for a long time. And so what we decided is this really does follow the use of the use of artificial intelligence really falls under academic integrity. And this first line on this slide really is, captures the essence of what we've been talking about in terms of culture. Within Marblehead Public Schools, a student should be able to say the work presented is my own unless otherwise indicated. And so we've made posters, we're putting that up with our educators, and we've emphasized that at the professional development, and they're emphasizing that with the students as well. Again, plagiarism isn't new, but we did make updates that were approved, basically highlighting all other types of unsighted work that are not one's own. So, that could be AI, it could be many other things where a student might be taking that to use as their own. So again, in the next couple of slides, it's the full academic integrity expectations. We felt that it was really important day one for all of our educators to understand what was updated and how that affects our students and them as the teacher, because they're the ones on the front lines that are receiving the work from our students, and they are the ones that are going to really help our students foster this and revitalize this culture. The only thing just I want to mention also academic integrity, if it's happening at the middle school and high school, we do have in the handbooks that those violations stay with them. So if something happens 7th grade, it will carry into 8th grade. If something happens in 9th grade, it carries through. So we do take it very seriously. And whether it's AI or anything else, copying, cheating from someone else's homework or whatnot, the expectation is the student is, again, in that slide, right? The work presented is their own unless otherwise indicated. And then we thought, okay, so we have these expectations. How do we communicate them, right? We really need to have clear communications with our students, staff, and our families. So I'm working on a communication to families, and that will be forthcoming really soon. We need to launch the school year. So this slide was really the conversation behind this slide was we need to be really clear as educators, and what does that mean in your classroom as well as a district, what our expectations are. And on the next slide, I really love this one. Our our teammates put this one together, and I think this just is super helpful. You know, we got to just be clear with the students. If we want them to use AI, then we need to say, yes, you can use AI to generate ideas, or you could do XYZ with AI on this. Just like and as a former English teacher myself, right? I always put the assignments, you say, you know, if you want 200 words, or you want it in Times New Roman font and 12 points, all of that. Now we're just going to include what are our AI parameters. No AI use on this one. We want your original thought, or feel free to use AI, and then you can cite that as part of the work that you produce. We have some really great tools. So Susan and Liz also presented how students can really easily cite using a tool called Noodle Tools, which are already taught how to do, because we do citations in our classes, in our classwork. So just emphasizing we already do this. Students already know how to cite. Okay. So setting the parameters. And again, AI can help. On the next slide, we're just going to circle back. You know, the focus as we launch the school year is really about those meaningful connections with our students, and impactful learning experiences. So if you need to use a couple tools, and AI could be one of them, that could help with some differentiation or planning. We supported that. We do support that. We've actually had some educators, can I use it? Can I not? And I think that's the conversation as well. We want to support our educators with this. The next slide is just, you know, again, some things that we talked about, and the educators led the educators in this conversation of, you know, some ideas of how they could meaningfully and proactively integrate AI. And, you know, if we're a multi-tiered system, use the multi-tiered systems of support framework. So if they needed something, maybe they want to differentiate some materials. Maybe they want to use create some ideas for an intervention or enrichment block, they could do that. So we just had a, you know, conversation about how they can use that and integrate it. Oh, you're going so fast for me. Frank's moving right along. Next slide, just real quick, but I think you guys have it. Liz created a list of tools. It's going to probably change. It's probably different today. I mean, than it was like last week, right? But the idea of just to get started, get some exposure to it, as part of our professional learning as educators. All right. Last but not least, bringing it all together, really kind of the whole presentation with, and really the work is, you know, our culture. Right, focusing on supporting this culture of learning and producing original work at all levels, supporting our students in, you know, understanding that intrinsic learning is where the value is going to be, especially in our amazing Marblehead Public Schools classrooms with our amazing educators. Administration supports will be there to partner and support our educators as they have questions, and continue ongoing learning. So we have a lot of PD forthcoming. We're going to have some support meetings, and we are going to continue our AI steering committee. And we included a works cited because we did use some outside sources. So we had to live true to our word, and we included a works cited page as we do expect our students to. So thank you for the opportunity to share. I know this is just an ongoing conversation, and I'm just so proud to be part of it with these amazing educators, and seeing it come to life in our classrooms.
I mean, I think it was important to have this presentation early on in the school year, because there are a lot of questions about it. What are we able to, what are we not able to do? And this is really clear. And I think the steering committee did a great job. I think the communication out with the staff around this has been great. I happened to be here at the high school, and Dan Richards was reading with the students in the auditorium, and very clear expectations, like all these talking points was there. It was great. The kids were engaged, paying attention. So it's in practice too. It's not just on these slides. It's in practice. I've seen it with my own eyes, and it needs to happen. Right? People need to understand this is a tool, and this is a tool that can be helpful, and not used properly, it can be harmful. But we have to help the students navigate that, differentiate. So I thank Julie and the team for really doing the work. It's so important.
Thank you, John. I couldn't agree more. I think that was a great presentation. Very well researched.
Thank you. I'm glad to hear that a communication is going to be going out to parents. That's what the students understand the technology far better than I do. And so being able to be on the same page about what the expectations are around it is beneficial. Absolutely. Yeah.
I suspect we may be a little leading edge with this, which is kind of cool. But the reason I'm asking is just, are there DESE resources or school resources that we companies, right? These network involved in some capacity going forward as we get more mature with this.
My wheels are always turning with all these ideas. Thanks for bringing that up. So, Desi, yes, Desi sent out, I think it was December of 24, some guidance, and we are there and beyond. Like, we're right on track with everything from Desi's standpoint. I've been doing a lot of exploring. I actually want to partner with some higher education, so some professors or some people that are doing this work too, because I know the feedback we're getting, what we're seeing, it is more of this kind of middle school, high school level that's exploring more with AI. So I want to bring in some outside resources, community resources. We had some local press on this, so that was nice. I had a parent community member reach out who's doing a lot with AI. So, I think the conversation is going to continue, and I do look forward to bringing in some more resources. And we have AI Week in Boston coming up. So I will be attending some sessions that are specific for educators in that coming up. So looking forward to my professional learning and along with our teammates.
And I just have a silly follow-up question. So back in the dark ages, teachers had tools that would help them understand if there was plagiarism, perhaps, right? Are there any, like, if you hadn't decided to use AI, are there AI tools that teachers can use to help, or at least point out when this may have been AI generated?
So there are some tools and we're learning about them. We actually did a really cool webinar with a founder of a company that talked to us a little bit about actually the focus is on and help students provide better feedback for their writing. And then it also will tell us if they're writing too quickly or they're, just give us some insight into that. So we've been partnering with and Tony Costello helped connect us with that. So he did some great work. Nothing's, we're exploring. I think that's the best thing we can say right now. We're definitely exploring, and I think at the end of the day, and this as educators, there's been plagiarism for a long time. So we do our very best to learn our students and learn their voice, and have those conversations about our expectations and what the parameters are.
And one of the things that Dan Richards shared in this thing with the students was that, like, when you're taking the AP exams and when they go through, they do have, like, software or whatever that throws it through the algorithm, and if they determine it's AI generated, whatever, it'll kick it back. So there are definitely resources out there. I mean, we're not there yet, like Julie said, but things are evolving so quickly that I would foresee in the very near future.
So I guess that question I would have, so what I read in there is that teachers are able to use AI to provide feedback to students. Right, so if you're correcting a paper or you're giving feedback, I don't know how that works for a math teacher, but they can use AI. So is there any consistency across? So in other words, if a student is tasked with producing work without using AI, is there consistency with the teacher who not either, or was that sort of forced from each other?
We're seeing it as a resource, so if it helps them provide feedback in a timely manner to our students, because we know it's really great to get that feedback to students. That was a recommendation, a suggestion. We don't have like how many teachers have done that or not. We also have tools that we've used for a long time, like turnitin.com, that you can type in feedback. You can actually now record a note and send it to a student. So we have other tools. This is just an idea if you want to create some, generate some ideas.
Because I just wonder how, well, I guess the teacher would probably just read it before they would send it. Yes, no, versus just, not knowing what that feedback is.
That came up when we were doing our webinar, and just how there's different levels of feedback, right? Are you looking for grammar and stuff like that? Because there's a lot of AI sources like Grammarly, there's a lot out there already.
Yeah.
So what is the feedback and what's going to help them the most? So more content based, I feel like, is going to generate some ideas. But
You have to convert hallucinations, right? Can you tell I watched like an AI video, like a 15-minute AI video, but
we had a slide in there. I did take it out, but we had a great slide about some kind of deeper level learning, and one of them talked about the AI hallucinations and stuff like that. And it was interesting.
Yeah, it was very interesting. It was good to hear about. It's a little heavy for this conversation, but it was good. It was deep dive. And for me to get into a deep dive, it was pretty cool.
So is this sort of ongoing?
Absolutely.
So you'll have ongoing,
Yeah,
I guess, meetings and feedback.
absolutely. So we're going to continue the AI steering committee this year. Everyone coming back, and we're going to hopefully get some new members as well. And then we've been talking about how to do more like a support group. at the school level and the professional learning at the school level. So that's forthcoming. Already some ideas are integrated into our professional development calendar. But we did collect feedback from the presentation. We had great feedback, but we do see this as more of kind of the maybe 6th through 12th grade as, going to continue this a little more development.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
very much.
Appreciate it.
Okay, yes. Good segue into textbook disposition.
So this is my first time doing this, so I welcome the committee's feedback, if you have any feedback on how you want me to. Sure. We've just been really fortunate to have, a very comprehensive curriculum review process and the funding that has allowed to bring in some really exceptionally high quality, evidence-based curriculum. With that said, now we do have some very old curriculum to dispose of. So, some of this we don't feel has a strong value at all because we're not sure if it would even be in good use in other classrooms. But I did want to note, last year, the committee did approve our new English learner curriculum and our science curriculum. So you'll see a lot of that here. And then we just had some old reading kits and some units of study that after we adopted written wisdom, for some reason, we still have them. And I just wanted to be transparent that we don't use them. We don't want to dispose of them. So asking for this committee's approval that we could.
Well, how are you disposing them?
Well, that I'm gonna research. This is my first time doing it. I know the Holt science textbooks are so old. They're not.
Yeah, so what I said,
Everybody wants them, but
yeah, so what I said I would do is I would reach out to other superintendents because, a lot of it's recyclable stuff. So a lot of times we find this is what happened previously in my life. We had a bunch of textbooks off, so you stuck it in the dumpster, right? So and anything that's not viable to say, hey, you want to come and grab these books, and these aren't this wouldn't be helpful to any of the school district really. I mean, they're all too antiquated, so it would likely be this textile companies, and I'm not familiar enough up here in Marblehead, but that's why I would reach out to. So for instance, we had one in Swan in my previous district where I said, hey, I have these 20, 2,000 books, come pick them up. They go through the textile, they make money off them. I guess it's almost like that. So something similar to that. So I'll research that a little bit, but it's just more, we have to, if anything else, we have to get rid of, or sometimes we have to get a vote to just make sure we're disposing of it properly.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're not dumping them.
It won't be in a dumpster. My daughter would come down on me if I do anything. Believe me.
And we're not doing, so K3 science, we have all new curriculum for K3? I thought it was 4-6.
yeah, so the K3 is the mystery science, so it's mostly online and kids. So the kids are actually doing the experiments. So I think within this, there's some workbooks and stuff like that. We would probably recycle those workbooks if they had any kind of student use on them. And then Lisa Marie, and between John and Lisa Marie, I feel like we'll find great resources for disposal.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we're looking for a motion to dispose of these textbooks.
So moved.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, move on to vote. Jen,
Favor?
Henry,
In favor?
Pete,
In favor.
Al, in favor. Motion passes 4-0. The next item on the agenda is the Lake Classic hockey trip.
Yes, thank you. I have Kent Wheeler, our AD, will speak to the trip. As the committee knows, anytime there's an overnight trip, we bring it to the committee for approval. And I think it was in your packet, but I think we'll walk through it and answer any questions you might have.
Saw this.
Yeah, thank you.
So you have in front of you. This is an opportunity that we got with Winthrop Hockey. And just read this, it's a brief summary. It's the 12th and the 13th of December. It's the first 2 games of the season. Right? And it would be against Winthrop. So it'd be like a 2-game series up in Lake Placid. The boys varsity ice hockey team has been invited to play a 2-game series against Winthrop at the Herb Brooks 1980 Arena in Lake Placid, New York on Friday evening, 12/12 and 12/13. Herb Brooks 1980 Arena was the site of the 1980 Winter Olympics, the year the underdog U.S. men's hockey team upset the highly favored USSR team and went on to win the gold medal. The upset is known as one of the greatest upsets in sports and was chronicled in the movie Miracle. So you may all know it because in 1980 it was unbelievable. I mean, I'm not a hockey guy and I have that Sports Illustrated framed in my basement. But Disney redid it as the movie The Miracle, as you probably know. So the kids understand the significance of it as well. We talk about it in U.S. history because it's a turning point in our economy and a variety of things. So it has a lot of significance. The 2 games versus Winthrop would count as the Northeast Conference League games. These games are within the MIA guidelines and were approved by the MIA's Keith Boulard, should we decide to move forward. So they're looking at it more or less. It's just like when we went to Fenway Park last year and played the game down there. Other than this is obviously in New York. The education focus of the trip would be the teams will be able to play in the same arena that hosted the 1980 Winter Olympics. The 1980 U.S. hockey team captain Mike Eruzione, a Winthrop High School alum, will speak to the team about the 1980 gold medal experience and provide a behind-the-scenes tour of the Olympic facility. That is going to be really cool. Mike Eruzione has basically gone around the world and spoken about this, and so our kids are going to get to listen to him, and they're on the site, which makes it even cool. Fun day. So it's a one night, and we're going to try to make this just like it's a very business-like trip. It's going to be just like a away game in a college. So they're going to go out on Friday morning. They're going to, and the itinerary here is on the back. They're going to go out Friday morning. They'll eat on the bus. They'll get to the High Peaks Resort in Lake Placid. They'll have a team meeting, have a light meal. They can walk from the hotel to the arena, which is really nice. And they're going to play their first game then that evening at Winthrop or against Winthrop. And then they'd have post-game dinner and then they have lights out. And then in the morning, they'd get back up, get a little workout in early, get some breakfast, check out, meet with Eruzione go through the facility, listen to him, and then have lunch. And then the game would be about 1:30. Have a dinner after the game, and then head back. So it'd be coach bus the whole way. And I think it's really important that it is a very business-like trip because it's the first 2 games of the series, but of the season. So I think we need to make sure that it's important to set the precedent, if you will, for the season. As far as the accommodations, we said there's 6 meals. There's a round trip bus, which would have to be coach bus. And then there's 12 nights or 12 rooms. 18 players. We take 16 and 2 goalies, and we'll have 4 coaches. And we have 2 additional spots. We might need those for a trainer, or depending on where we get our trainer comes, or if trainer is applied, or the bus driver possibly. And we have put some money down. We put $2,000 down on the hotel. And the rough numbers that the hotel room is about $249 a room. So it'll be double occupancy. There's 2 queen beds. So 12 rooms, that's $3,000. 6 meals, 24 people, $12, $1,728. So my calculations about $4,700 there. The bus is probably about $4,000. So we're looking about between $8,000 and $10,000, of which we've already paid $2 to hold the hotel rooms. And I know the boys are talking about all kinds of ways to fundraise for the rest of it. But we wanted to come here and obviously get your approval before we got too far along on anything like that. We'll have future meetings. Mark Tarmey's done a lot of the work on this as far as the coordination with Winthrop. And obviously our new coach, Brendan Locke, is going to get involved as well. And we'll be talking with Winthrop to coordinate. But we're definitely going to set as far as the itinerary goes, we're going to set that precedent because that's really important. So like to have your approval for it. I think it'll be a great trip.
I guess the only question I have then is, what about the girls' team?
Well, that would come next year.
Okay. I mean, I think matter of equity.
Yep. And we've done that in basketball too, where we had the boys go to the Garden, and then next year we followed up and tried to get the girls to go to Garden.
So that's the plan for next year.
Yeah, well, we've talked about that. We don't have a plan in place. It's a little different there because our girls program is a co-op. And also includes, we also have a waiver so that we can bring 7th and 8th grade girls up. So it makes it a little bit different, but yeah, that's come to mind and we talked about that. Yeah.
I would urge you to consider the equity issues.
Yeah, I'm big on equity issues, so I think that's also an idea.
Yeah, I mentioned that to John Strepek, the girls coach, actually this afternoon when I saw him. We talked about it. So, yep. Anything else?
Okay,
No?
for a motion,
I'll make a motion to approve the Lake Placid trip for the boys hockey team.
Seconded.
any further discussion? Okay, we'll vote. Jen,
Favor?
Henry,
In favor?
Kate,
In favor.
Al, in favor, the motion passes 4-0. Okay. The next item is around Piper Field light proposals. John, we're gonna guess to this.
Yes, so thank you. So the lighting, proposal, just to recap, I went before the planning board and on the 12th of August. There was, questions that came about around, the number of nights, butters were kind of, asking some questions. So we decided to continue it. So we continued it and, I told the neighbors, the butters, that I would meet with a couple, community members as representatives. So I did that. Back I met with representatives of the youth sports with Kent, community members, and had a further conversation. So what was born out of those conversations are, one, I met with the butters, I share with them that, what the current usage is. If we look to increasing lights on those current nights, maybe 56 nights and increase it, roughly 84 hours over that course thing. And went back to the youth sports in Kent and kind of really got down and dirty with the number of nights that would be required. So when I went to the planning board the first time, I said that I was looking for roughly 180 nights. And after all the conversations and talking to everybody again, we're still at about 180 nights. So the difference is what I did with this updated proposal was I broke it out. What I was asked to do is give numbers and timeframes. So what I'll share with this, so the difference between the first proposal and this proposal is that instead of asking for the 9 o'clock nights that we currently have to go to 10, that was part of the first proposal. I just said, let's keep it all at 9 o'clock. Let's do all the nights at 9 o'clock, so it aligns with the other fields in town. So that all the sports and the youth sports can benefit from all of the fields and not just the other ones other than Piper. So the updated proposal is to utilize the lights until 9 p.m. from mid-August through November, which is approximately 105 nights. And then again from mid-March through May, which is approximately 75 nights. This usage will encompass fall and spring athletics, as there's no need for lights to be used during the winter or in the summer. The lights will only be turned on when needed and will be turned off at the end of the athletic contest, thereby minimizing the impact to the greatest extent possible. And then I said it should be noted 9 p.m. timeframe will align with usage of the other town fields. So that's the basic update. So the other piece is that when I spoke to youth sports and stuff, folks felt that we should do a visual presentation along with just the proposal. So Pat Noonan and folks have been working on a slideshow that really kind of encapsulates this in a visual form. And I think that's very helpful. So you can kind of see like the number of nights, the seasons, the lumens. I had shared that in the last meeting. It wasn't on the screen, but I shared like the array of the lights and kind of where they shine, how far out they shine. So that I think that'll be better, a better part of the presentation. It's supposed to be before the board on Tuesday. So the plan would be to go before the board, share this updated proposal and the slideshow that would really give a visual representation. And then the only the piece about the PA is still kind of a little wishy-washy. I had talked about in this, which you might tweet, is using it for all the MIA sanctioned events, thinking that I wanted to make sure that the abutters knew that we weren't using it for youth sports or anything other than the MIA. When I spoke with Ken, that's a significant amount of nights. So we still have to kind of manage that a little bit. But what I will say is the usage of the PA system currently is for the football games. So it's either 4 or 5 games, depending on the season, home games. It's utilized for the play-by-play, et cetera. It has to be a little bit loud because of the size of the crowds at the football games. That's generally why it's so loud. There was discussions about playing music through the PA. I didn't retort that at the planning board meeting because I didn't know the answer. But the answer is the only music we play through the PA system is the national anthem. The other music that folks were referring to was student generated. You know, they different boxes that injure myself. Okay. And play the music to get them pumped up and stuff. So that's the piece. So the PA would only be used for the national, for music wise, the national anthem, for play by play for the football. And then I'm gonna work with Ken in the athletic department to see how many nights we can actually use it for. So there's equity between male and female athletic sporting events. But what I want to say is we modulate the volume of the PA. You know, a soccer game with, you know, maybe 100 fans is much different than a football game with a couple hundred fans. And the volume doesn't need to be as loud. It's not play by play like in football. You know, soccer's, you know, Johnny scored, Sam scored, Susie scored, Bob scored. You know, it's not a lot of that. And then the other piece is the senior nights, we usually announce the kids' names. So it's minimal. I feel it's minimal overall. So that's it. So we're gonna have further conversations between today and Tuesday just to kind of makes a little bit more sense, the larger conversation. And then I just will say that this part of the conversation has nothing to do with the lights. However, at the planning board meeting, there was a vocalization of the other issues with the field, namely trash after games, students urinating over fences. And there was a lot of things that were brought up that had nothing to do with lights and nothing to do with the PA system, which is what I was there for. So, you know, the conversation devolved a little bit, but when I met with the abutters, those are things that I can address in different form. So like I can speak with Kent and the coaches and the parents and the kids and the police and how we police it, so how we take care of our own trash in, trash out. You know, there's a lot of things we can do as a school district, as a superintendent, to work with the team, the folks to mitigate some of the concerns that have nothing to do with lights. So I'm committed to doing that, and I'll share that on Tuesday as well. So I think overall, we're really looking for roughly 180 nights at night till 9 o'clock for lights. The PA system really only when we need it, and we can modulate the volume easily. No music through the PA other than the national anthem. And that's really it. And that will allow a lot more youth sports to be utilize the fields, will allow our sub-varsity teams to get onto Piper Field, and it will allow some more usage because of that. And realistically, I mean, we have the best field in town here at the high school that's underutilized, and that's crazy to me. There's a lot of money that's raised by private donations that put that field in place. And it's the nicest field, it's the most underutilized field. I think we have an opportunity to change that, and hopefully the planning board sees that as we move forward. So that's my plan. Go to the planning board on Tuesday. I put it, you know, it was under my impression that we had to do it as a vote. I don't know if it's consideration that we actually have to vote, the school may actually have to vote on the update. Also, but I'll leave that up to you guys. But 7 o'clock on Tuesday is what it's.
John, can you just, on the 180 days, it's not, is it that the lights will be on 180 nights or that they could
No.
potentially be?
Potentially used for those, so at the seasons, the fall season and the spring season, between the two is roughly 180 nights. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's always gonna be, because there might be contests that end and we might have to turn the lights off the last half hour of the game, or they're part of the game. So it doesn't necessarily mean they're always gonna be on until 9 o'clock in one of those games, but we want the ability to, if we need to. Because we don't want to go back and say, oh, well, now we asked for 8 o'clock and now 10 o'clock, or, you know, to get to where full daylight savings across the United States now, so we have different times, all those things. And then the other thing is too, is, weather impacts things, so you might have a night that's, really, really cloudy, and leave the lights on, and normally when we wouldn't need to yet, so there has to be a little flexibility, so that like, they were really trying to nail me down to dates and times and numbers. So I mean, that's the best I can really do without feeling cancellations moving the games, games that stop in the middle because the lightning storm goes by and we have to reschedule, so that adds extra, all those things. There's some factors there, so. I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yes.
So I don't see why we need to vote this, because this is a continuation of a former, that was my first thought. But I do think, I mean, I attended that. I do think it's important that there should be a school committee member there. This is our application to the planning board. John's speaking for us. It's our application, so I will leave it at that. It's the same night as the Lapham Foundation event, so I don't know how many people attending that. But at the very least, probably the chair, would think would be there.
Yeah. I agree having been there. Unfortunately, I'm in Pennsylvania for the tending to an elder care issue, so I won't even be in the state.
Well, somebody should be there.
Yeah, so I
I've
have
been
a problem.
planning to attend the Latin Foundation event, but we'll, go to planning board with John. To be able to join that.
And I think,
Thanks.
my understanding and my takeaway is that, there may also be a zoning board.
Yes.
presentation, be a separate.
So, yeah, thank you for bringing that up. I forgot to bring that. So after the last meeting, I was told, we might, because there was a concern about something, so. Sounds to me like I have to go to planning board and then have to go to zoning board. It sounds like it's it will be a very similar conversation just with the other board, and I'm still unclear as to why, but I'll do whatever we need to. I mean,
Well, I can tell you why, because
Okay.
originally when the school was built, they went before the zoning board. And there were orders of what they had to do, and they also applied for conditions. So that is for the perpetuity of the building. So the conditions that the zoning board happened to be identical thing. To the condition, well, no, they're not identical, similar to the conditions that the planning board were on, they survived the life of the.
which I appreciate that, because I was unclear to me, as to why, but whatever, I mean, we'll do whatever we need to, and I think. I just want to say I appreciate the assistance from, so this is a very difficult time of the year to be dealing with lights and everything else, so I appreciate, folks, Kate's jumped in a little bit, Jen had before, Pat Noonan, Buffy, Paquette, Ken, there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of people involved, so I do appreciate that, because it's important for the kids, so I appreciate all the efforts.
I mean, the only thing is, how do you, I guess we won't know, you spoke to the abutters, and then you met with, and amended the application, and then I think the abutters are expecting that.
So, no, so tomorrow, again, I was bringing before the committee tonight, so I don't want to send anything out prematurely in case there was a discussion that I have to do something differently, so. I feel comfortable where we are now, so I'll send out the information to the butter, so they're not surprised by it on Tuesday. I don't know if someone will gonna be happy because the way the conversation, kind of evolved, but, I'm superintendent and in charge of making sure the kids get what they need, and that's my priority. So,
I mean, the only thing I would say is that the directive was to meet the abutters and come up with a mutual agreement. So I just,
yeah,
I think if, I think we should be prepared. Yes. That's not the case, but hopefully, you can have a conversation and explaining the reasoning behind this.
yeah, I mean, I'll do my best. I think, some of it. I think having the conversation with the butters was the right thing to do with as many people that came up. I don't take this wrong way. I don't think the planning board, is in charge of me, like, coming up with mutual agreement.
Yeah.
We talked about that, but, I think at the end of the day, we're gonna try to do the best we can and make it as minimal as possible. And, when I went back and folks are really adamant about the number of nights that it really needs to happen so that we can get the field of show needs. So,
Well, it also seemed that some of these other tangential issues seem to also really be concerning to a lot of neighbors, understandable.
100%.
So I think if there's hopefully there's a trust that those issues are going to be mitigated, or at least, we're going to get proactive about trying to, that would show No.
Yeah, and I think, no,
Respect there.
yeah, and I think, to be honest with you, the way the conversation kind of. I don't use the word devolved, and then my conversation subsequent to. Realistic, not that the lights aren't an issue, lights are a big issue, but all the other stuff seemed to be way more of an issue. And that's why I was kind of like, whoa, what's happening? So. Yeah, it caught me off guard a little bit, sure, but I think I know that having the conversations with the right folks is gonna mitigate some of that. I have some thoughts about how we can mitigate some of the other concerns that folks have about what's happening inside the football games especially. So we're gonna have those conversations as well and move forward. I think that will be in a good place.
All right.
Thank you, John.
Yes, thanks, Sean. Okay, our next item, excuse me, is subcommittee and liaison updates, and I know we're still a little bit waiting for our fifth member to fully stem all these subcommittees. The good news being, hopefully we'll have our fifth member in the next week or so. So any updates? I'll start with just communication. Henry and I are trying to set up meetings. Henry's been very good about defining dates. I need to follow up with that. So that's a report from that committee. Anybody else?
We had a policy subcommittee meeting last week. Set a meeting schedule for the year, so we have dates for a fairly ambitious workload. And at next, we'll be starting to bring policies to the committee at our next meeting.
Thank you.
So I don't have an update for budget, because I don't have another budget person, which is actually a bit of a problem, so because I can't. So I'm gonna actually start having some conversations with John, and and Mike, and I'm gonna reach out to the chair of the finance committee, because we, at this point, should have probably had at least one, if not more, meetings, particularly, well, looking at what we're, going into this budget season. And there's a lot of, there's a lot of moving parts. I don't know if anyone's read the enrollment reports, but we're down 170 on some like students this year, but we're also looking at contractual obligations that have an increase. So I'm gonna begin to start having those conversations, and then hopefully we can get someone else and we can start those meetings.
Yeah, I think Jen, at the previous meeting, we talked about perhaps moving from communications to budget. But I think as you said, perhaps the new member might have a very good financial background, so let's wait until that process.
Yeah, no, it's
is
fine.
completed.
I'm gonna
So-
start having a conversation.
Yeah, so hopefully soon we'll be able to have that second person on that committee.
Okay, and then I did have a conversation with John, with Mike too, in terms of the, so I guess falls under budget subcommittee, there's also school committee in terms of the financial updates that we just that, having those, and which does sort of also lead into, which is not a subcommittee issue, but it's getting our materials to us. I mean, I'll make a motion if I have to, but I need, speak for myself, to see materials well before the meeting. I'd like to see them the Friday before.
Yeah, our policy is 48 hours, and so we need to make sure that we're adherent to that.
But even the 48 hours sometimes to me is not, I mean, it's a lot of material. Even 48 hours isn't necessarily, there's a lot of.
Yeah, I think we can put them in as soon as we can. We don't, should be no later than, or no earlier than that, but I agree, especially when there's a big presentation, a lot of data. The more days that we have to review it, the better.
Yeah, so I'm just, like, I don't think, if it's not in there 48 hours ahead of time, it shouldn't be covering it, because it's not enough time to work these things, so.
I think that's fair.
And that's the answer to our public comment, right? It was not gaslighting. It was the material was not available, did not adhere to our policy, so it was taken off the agenda at the last minute. My fault,
But that doesn't necessarily, like, again, well, we can talk about it. But like, taking something off the agenda doesn't necessarily amend the agenda, because you can table anything for any reason.
Yeah.
And amending an agenda right before a meeting, it just, I think if something's gonna get tabled, it can get tabled. That doesn't necessitate an amended agenda.
Yeah, and
And it could be tabled because we didn't have the material. And that's a legitimate reason, but I think we ought to try to do everything we can. I'm suggesting, that you do everything you can, you set an agenda, that let folks know, whoever that is, this material is
Understood. Understood.
the morning or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I did also want to let the committee know, I did reach out, as we discussed at our last meeting, I sent an email, which I copied the members of the committee. To all the members of the Board of Health, I directed it to the chairs of the Select Board, Board of Health, and the Rep and Park. They did copy all members. Reaching out about, trying to coming together to collaborate on issues around, youth, substance abuse, and, in light of the tragedy that happened earlier this, summer, last month, and I have not heard back, but, which is a couple days ago, so I will follow up and hopefully, we'll have something. I asked for a scheduled meeting, so hopefully by the next time we meet.
The chair of the board of health has not received anything from them.
I sent it to where I was told to send. It was BOH emails at Gmail. I spoke to Andrew, well, I spoke to Andrew and then, was told that was the way to communicate, so. I did what I was told, so I don't know what to say. I can follow up with Andrew tomorrow. Find out what happened.
Jen, I'm happy to forward that email to Tom if that would speed things up. I do have it in my
Yeah,
inbox.
I don't have individual emails. That would be great. I wanted the
I think there are not.
emails.
Tom, I'm assuming Tom Azar, I'm assuming you're speaking. I'll
That's why I called, because you can't click on the emails. You can call. And the names are there, but there's no link to an email. So that's why I called. That's why I was told to send.
I may not sound very late.
Okay, well, I'll look at it to you, and I copied the other, or we'll copy the other members too, or try to. Just so they can see it, and see what the. So that was that, and, that's it.
Thank you, Jen. Okay, we're on to, ready new business.
The only thing I had, well, a couple things. I was looking back at my notes. I am unclear on where we left the school committee goals.
We need to set goals.
Yeah, didn't think we did that. So, not sure when that's gonna happen. And I also don't know how many, if anybody is planning to go to the MASC conference in November. The cutoff is tomorrow for a less
Early bird.
early bird cost, which obviously we want to be cost conscious. I don't know if anyone's planning to go or not. Other members are planning to go. I am. It's a very valuable conference, particularly around professional development. As a school committee member, I think that was part of our goals. It might not be part of our goals this year, but it is part of our operating protocol. So I would strongly encourage folks to take a look at it. It's a very, very robust schedule. It's an opportunity to develop professionally. It's an opportunity to meet other committee members, make connections. And tomorrow's the cutoff for saving us some money to do this. So,
My recollection is that members were supposed to contact me from any if they intended to attend, and she registered me as well. But it's fine. I need to be there.
Yeah, I'm also planning on attending too.
From an admin team, I'm gonna be a representative, and then I'm glad to be there. I wasn't sure what's going, so. Just when you let Lisa know, just let her know if you wanted to do lunches, dinners and stuff, I usually just do lunches. Oh, that's great, I'm glad. Cool.
All right, is there any correspondence?
The only question I had, goes back to the issue with the planning board, is we did receive a letter, or an email, which I'm not gonna respond to, about the temporary license at the village schools. I'm not sure if they're now. Some sort of response.
I'm sorry, Jim, what was, I was writing down to let us know I'm attending the conference.
We received correspondence regarding the temporary lights at the village field.
Okay.
So,
All right, I'll review it and respond accordingly. Thank you. Okay, I'm looking for a motion and vote to meet in executive session for the following reasons. Executive session pursuant to chapter 38, section 21A3, purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with Unit A of the Marblehead Teachers Association. As an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and the chair so declares without intent to return to open session. Also executive session pursuant to chapter 30A, section 21A3, purpose 3, to discuss litigation, Marblehead School Committee and Marblehead Teachers Association, MUP 25-11555. As an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the position of the school committee and the chair so declares. Also executive session pursuant to chapter 38, section 21A3, purpose 3, to discuss litigation, Ferretti Kelly et al. Versus Marblehead Public Schools et al., docket number 2577 CV 00904. As an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the school committee and the chair so declares.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay. New roll call, Jen,
Favor?
Henry,
In favor.
Kate,
In favor.
Al in favor. The motion passes 4-0. The committee will now be meeting in executive session pursuant to chapter 38, section 21A3, purpose 3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining with Unit A of the Marblehead Teachers Association. As an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position of the public body, and the chair so declares without intent to return to open session. We'll also be meeting around executive session pursuant to chapter 38, section 21A3, purpose 3, to discuss litigation, Marblehead School Committee and Marblehead Teachers Association, MUP 25-11555. As an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the school committee, and the chair so declares. We will also be meeting in executive session pursuant to chapter 38, section 21A3, purpose 3, to discuss litigation, Ferretti Kelly et al. Versus Marblehead Public Schools et al., docket number 2577 CV 00904. As an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the school committee, and the chair so declares. Okay. So we'll take a few minutes and then we'll just reconvene this classroom break.
Al, I have the link. I will see you in there.
Okay, thank you.
Also, we're gonna.
And
And then